Admiral Lucas Kane stood at the big window of the space station and watched something that should not be possible. Giant alien ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system like silver monsters in the dark. 27 massive ships, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. Commander Katie Brooks ran to him with fear in her eyes and handed him a message tablet. Her hands shook as she spoke. "Sir, they are sending the same message on every radio channel. The message is very clear." The hologram machine turned on and showed the face of an alien creature. Supreme Admiral Vex Thorian of the Zilonian Empire looked like a giant lizard in a military uniform. His cold eyes stared at them without any feeling as he spoke words that meant death for all humans. "Weak creatures of the third planet, you have 7 days to give up your world to the Zilonian Empire. Your people will be moved to work camps on other planets. If you fight us, we will kill every living thing on your planet. This is not something we will discuss. This will happen." President Helen Martinez called an emergency meeting within hours. All the military leaders of Earth came together in a deep underground bunker in Switzerland. Their faces looked worried as they studied how weak Earth's defenses really were. The human fleet had only 42 ships and most of them were small patrol boats. Against the alien armada, humans might as well throw rocks at tanks. General Ryan Cooper led Earth's defense forces and he showed everyone the computer analysis of their chances. "Our best guess is that we have less than 2 chances out of 100 to win if we fight them directly. Their shield systems alone can stop all our nuclear weapons." Admiral Kane had been keeping a big secret, though. For 15 years, ever since humans first heard alien radio signals, a secret project had been going on in the darkness of space where no one could see it. The project was called Blackout and it was hidden in the far reaches of the solar system. "There might be another way to handle this," Kane said in a quiet voice, "but it means telling you about something that was never supposed to exist." The room went silent as Kane walked to the main display screen. He entered his personal code and a new star map appeared. This map showed locations that were not on any official charts. Dots of light marked secret bases scattered throughout the outer solar system like hidden treasures waiting to be found. Project Blackout began the day we realized we were not alone in the universe, Kane explained to the shocked faces around the table. "We knew that first contact might not be peaceful. We prepared for the worst case and hoped we would never need to use what we built." President Martinez leaned forward in her chair. "What exactly did you build out there, Admiral?" Kane pressed another button and the display changed to show ship designs that looked nothing like the clean, bright vessels of Earth's public fleet. These ships were dark and angular like predators made of metal and shadow. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "We built a fleet that could fight enemies with better technology than ours. We took every piece of alien wreckage we ever found, every crashed probe, every strange signal, and we learned from it. We reverse-engineered their technology and made it better." General Cooper stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "How many ships are we talking about, Admiral?" 237 combat vessels, General. All of them hidden in the Kuiper Belt where no scanner can find them. All of them crewed by volunteers who gave up everything to protect Earth. All of them ready to fight. The president looked around the room at the faces of men and women who thought they knew everything about Earth's military capabilities. "Why was I not told about this sooner?" Kane's expression remained serious as he answered, "Because the best secrets are the ones that even leaders don't know. If you had known about the Black Armada, you might have acted differently during diplomatic contacts. You might have been more confident in ways that alien observers could detect. Our greatest weapon has been appearing weak while becoming strong." Commander Brooks had been studying the ship specifications on her tablet, and she looked up with amazement. "These weapon systems are decades ahead of anything in our regular fleet. Some of these technologies shouldn't even be possible with our current understanding of physics." "That's because they're not entirely human technologies," Kane replied. "We've had help from sources that remain classified. Let's just say that not every alien visitor to our solar system has been hostile, and some of them were willing to share knowledge with a species they believed showed promise." The display screen changed again to show personnel files of the Black Armada crews. Thousands of faces appeared, men and women who had volunteered for a mission that required them to disappear from the official records. They had families who thought they were dead, careers they had abandoned, lives they had sacrificed for a war that might never come. These people have been living in secret bases for years, training for this exact scenario, Kane continued. They knew they might never see Earth again. They knew their sacrifice might be meaningless if we were never invaded. But they also knew that if this day came, they would be humanity's only hope. President Martinez stood up and walked to the big screen showing the alien fleet positions. How long before your secret fleet can reach Earth? They're already moving into position, Madam President. The moment those Zilonian ships appeared, I sent the alert signal. Our people have been preparing for this moment for 15 years. They know what to do. The room filled with nervous energy as the leaders realized that humanity's situation was not as hopeless as they had believed. They still faced overwhelming odds, but now they had a secret weapon that the aliens knew nothing about. What do you need from us, Admiral? General Cooper asked. Kane looked at each person in the room before answering. I need you to do exactly what the Zilonians expect you to do. Panic, argue, appear weak and divided. Make them believe that we are just the primitive species they think we are. Give my people time to get into position. President Martinez nodded slowly. How long do we have to maintain this deception? 6 days, Madam President. On the 7th day, when they expect our surrender, we'll show them what humans are really capable of when someone threatens our home. Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent the last 10 years of her life working in the coldest, darkest, and loneliest place in the solar system. The Kuiper Belt was full of ice chunks and rocks floating in the black emptiness beyond Neptune, and hidden among them were the secret shipyards that built humanity's greatest weapons. She floated in the zero gravity of the main construction facility and watched through the massive windows as the last ships of the Black Armada prepared to leave their hidden home. These vessels looked like nothing Earth had ever built before. Their hulls were painted in deep space black that seemed to swallow light itself, and their shapes were sharp and predatory, like hunting animals made of metal. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the heavy cruiser Retribution, and spoke to his crew over the communication system. These men and women had volunteered to disappear from the world 15 years ago, leaving behind families and friends who thought they were dead. They had trained in secret, lived in isolation, and prepared for a war that might never come. The Zilonians think they know everything about humanity, Morrison told his people as they made final preparations for departure. They studied our public ships, listened to our radio broadcasts, and measured our technology. They have no idea what we really built out here in the darkness. The Black Armada was unlike anything that had ever existed in human space. 237 ships of war, each one incorporating alien technology that human scientists had reverse-engineered from crash sites and artifacts that the public never learned about. These ships had weapons that could phase through enemy shields, engines that could jump across space instantly, and armor that could absorb energy attacks. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster commanded the stealth destroyer Shadowhawk, one of the smaller but deadliest ships in the fleet. Her vessel could become completely invisible to any known scanning system and strike without warning. She had been monitoring Zilonian communications since their fleet arrived, and she knew exactly how overconfident the aliens were. Their battle formation tells us everything we need to know about their mindset. Foster reported during the final briefing before departure. They positioned their command ships in the back because they think our weapons cannot reach that far. They spread their fleet in a display pattern because they want to look impressive rather than defensive. They are not expecting a real fight. Admiral Kane's authorization signal reached the black sites on the 3rd day after the alien ultimatum. The message was short and simple, but it meant everything to the people who had waited so long to defend their home. Operation Nightfall was approved, and humanity's hidden children could finally come out of the shadows. Dr. Vasquez watched from the bridge of the fleet's flagship, the massive battle carrier Void Walker, as the Black Armada began its journey toward Earth. This ship was larger than anything in Earth's official fleet, and it carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. More importantly, it carried the hope of every human being who wanted to remain free. The journey from the Kuiper Belt to Earth would take 3 days at maximum stealth speed. During this time, the Black Armada had to remain completely invisible to Zilonian sensors while positioning themselves for the most devastating surprise attack in military history. Every ship captain knew their exact role in the plan that had been rehearsed thousands of times in computer simulations. Captain Morrison's cruiser group would handle the enemy's heavy battleships, using their quantum torpedoes to punch through shields that conventional weapons could not penetrate. Lieutenant Colonel Foster's destroyer squadrons would hunt the smaller ships and cut off any attempt at retreat. The battle carriers would deploy fighter wings, equipped with weapons that could disable entire ships without destroying them. But the most devastating weapons in the Black Armada were Dr. Vasquez's special creations. The void bombs used dark matter manipulation to create gravitational fields that could crush a battleship like an empty can. Each bomb was small enough to fit in a fighter's weapons bay but powerful enough to destroy multiple targets. The Black Armada carried 50 of these ultimate weapons. I spent my whole career studying alien technology, Dr. Vasquez explained to the other scientists on the Void Walker. Every crashed probe, every piece of wreckage, every strange signal we detected taught us something new. The Zolonians think they are fighting primitive humans, but they are actually facing weapons built from the combined knowledge of dozens of alien civilizations. The Black Armada moved through space like ghosts, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to every scanning method the Zolonians might use. The alien fleet remained in their arrogant formation around Earth, completely unaware that death was approaching from the darkness behind them. Communication between the black ships was conducted through quantum entanglement systems that could not be detected or intercepted. Every captain received constant updates on enemy positions and battle plans. They knew exactly when and where to strike for maximum effect. On the Voidwalker's main display screen, a tactical map showed the positions of both fleets. The Zolonian ships appeared as red dots arranged in their overconfident formation, while the Black Armada showed as blue dots moving into attack positions like predators surrounding their prey. In 12 hours, those two groups of dots would meet in the most important battle in human history. Captain Morrison checked his ship's weapon systems one final time. The quantum torpedoes were loaded and ready, their exotic matter warheads capable of existing in multiple dimensions at once. When fired, these weapons would phase through normal space and emerge inside enemy hulls where shields could not protect them. Lieutenant Colonel Foster ran final diagnostics on the Shadowhawk's stealth generators. Her ship would be among the first to attack, striking the enemy's sensor platforms to ensure that the Zolonians remained blind to the approaching fleet until it was too late to organize an effective defense. Dr. Vasquez supervised the loading of the void bombs onto the attack fighters. Each weapon required careful handling because the dark matter cores were inherently unstable. One mistake could create a gravitational anomaly that would destroy the ship carrying it, but that same instability made the bombs incredibly destructive when they reached their targets. The alien fleet continued to broadcast demands for Earth's surrender, their messages full of threats and promises of mercy for those who submitted quickly. Supreme Admiral Thorian seemed to enjoy describing the fate that awaited any humans who dared to resist the might of the Zolonian Empire. But hidden in the darkness beyond their sensors, humanity's secret fleet moved closer to striking range. The Black Armada was about to teach the galaxy that humans were not the weak prey species that the Zolonians believed them to be. Soon, very soon, the aliens would learn what happened when someone threatened Earth. President Helen Martinez stood before the cameras and played her role perfectly. Her face showed the fear and uncertainty that the watching aliens expected to see from the leader of a primitive species facing certain doom. Behind her, government officials argued loudly about surrender terms while military advisors shook their heads in apparent despair. The people of Earth are deeply divided on how to respond to this crisis, Martinez announced to the galaxy, her voice trembling just enough to seem genuine. Some believe we should negotiate for the best possible terms. Others insist we must fight regardless of the cost. We need more time to reach a consensus. Supreme Admiral Thorian watched this broadcast from his command ship and felt the satisfaction of a predator observing wounded prey. These humans were behaving exactly as every other species had when faced with Zolonian might. Fear, confusion, and desperate attempts to buy time they did not have. Admiral Kane coordinated the deception from his hidden command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Every public statement, every troop movement, and every diplomatic message was carefully designed to reinforce the image of human weakness and disorganization. The aliens saw exactly what they expected to see. Earth's visible fleet moved into defensive positions around the inner planets in patterns that looked desperate and poorly planned. The ship captains followed orders to make their formations appear ragged and uncoordinated. They transmitted on frequencies they knew the aliens were monitoring, discussing ammunition shortages and equipment failures that did not actually exist. Commander Katie Brooks worked with intelligence agencies around the world to feed false information to Zolonian scanning efforts. Fake energy readings made human shields appear weaker than they really were. Stage communications suggested that Earth's weapons were older and less effective than the aliens had estimated. Carefully orchestrated accidents made it seem like human technology was unreliable under stress. Captain Jake Morrison and the advance elements of the Black Armada moved into their final positions during this crucial phase. Using stealth systems that bent light and absorbed scanner beams, they slipped past Zilonian sensor networks like invisible sharks swimming through dark water. The enemy fleet remained completely unaware that death was approaching from all directions. The Retribution and 12 other heavy cruisers positioned themselves directly behind the alien formation, their quantum torpedoes aimed at the command ships that Thorian kept safely in the rear. These vessels would be the first targets when the attack began, cutting off the head of the Zilonian snake before it could react. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster's destroyer squadron spread out around the flanks of the alien fleet like a closing net. The Shadowhawk and her sister ships would prevent any enemy vessels from escaping once the battle started. Their mission was to ensure that none of the invaders lived to warn their empire about humanity's true capabilities. General Ryan Cooper coordinated with resistance groups on Earth, preparing for the possibility that the space battle might not go as planned. Secret weapon depots, underground command bunkers, and hidden communication networks were activated across every continent. If the Black Armada failed, humanity would make the occupation of Earth as costly as possible. Dr. Elena Vasquez made final adjustments to her most terrifying creation aboard the Voidwalker. The dark matter bombs were loaded onto stealth fighters that would carry them directly into the heart of the enemy formation. Each weapon could create a gravitational field strong enough to crush multiple ships, and the aliens had no defense against technology they did not even know existed. On the 5th day of the ultimatum, Thorian transmitted another demand for immediate surrender. His message showed the growing impatience of a predator that expected its prey to submit quickly. He described in detail what would happen to human cities when his fleet began orbital bombardment, painting pictures of destruction, meant to break the will of anyone still thinking about resistance. President Martinez responded, with exactly the kind of weak diplomatic language that reinforced alien assumptions about human nature. She spoke of the need for more time, the complexity of global decision-making, and the desire to protect civilian populations. Every word was calculated to make Thorian believe that surrender was inevitable. But beneath the surface of this public theater, humanity's greatest military operation was reaching its final phase. The Black Armada had achieved perfect positioning around the Zilonian fleet without being detected. 237 ships of war waited in the darkness like a hidden dagger aimed at the heart of the Empire. Communication between Black Fleet units was maintained through quantum encrypted channels that could not be intercepted or detected by alien technology. Every captain received real-time updates on enemy positions and movement patterns. They knew exactly when their targets would be most vulnerable. Admiral Kane reviewed the final battle plan from his command bunker. The attack would begin with simultaneous strikes on the enemy's command and communication ships, followed immediately by mass torpedo salvos against their heavy battleships. The stealth fighters carrying void bombs would target clusters of enemy vessels, creating gravitational traps that would prevent escape or regrouping. The timing had to be perfect because humanity would only get one chance at surprise. Once the aliens realized they were facing a real threat instead of primitive resistance, they would adapt their tactics and use their superior numbers more effectively. The first few minutes of battle would determine whether Earth remained free or became another Zilonian slave world. Captain Morrison checked the countdown timer on his command display. 18 hours remained until the ultimatum expired, and the aliens expected humanity's final answer. But instead of surrender, they would receive something they never saw coming. The bridge crew of the Retribution made their final preparations in the silence that comes before a storm. Weapons were charged, shields were raised to minimum power to avoid detection, and targeting computers locked onto their assigned enemy vessels. Every person aboard knew that the fate of their species depended on the next day's work. Lieutenant Colonel Foster reviewed the attack patterns for her destroyer wing one last time. Her ships would strike first, taking out the enemy's sensor platforms and communication relays. Without their electronic eyes and ears, the Zilonian fleet would be blind and deaf when the main assault began. Dr. Vasquez watched the final loading of dark matter bombs onto the attack fighters with a mixture of pride and terror. These weapons represented the ultimate expression of human ingenuity applied to the art of war. They would either save Earth or serve as humanity's final monument to its refusal to submit. The stage was set for the most important battle in human history. On one side, an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds through overwhelming force and absolute ruthlessness. On the other, a species that had learned to hide its strength while preparing for the ultimate test of survival. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn what happened when someone threatened humanity's home. The Zolonian assault began exactly at sunrise on the 7th day. Supreme Admiral Thorian's massive fleet moved forward in perfect formation like silver death, spreading across the darkness of space. 27 capital ships advanced toward Earth while smaller vessels spread out to surround the planet completely. Earth's visible fleet put up exactly the kind of hopeless resistance that the aliens expected to see. Human ships fired their weapons desperately while being torn apart by superior Zolonian firepower and shielding. One by one, the defenders were destroyed or disabled, their crews sending final messages of defiance before their ships went dark. Admiral Kane commanded the defense from Neptune's gate station, sending increasingly frantic transmissions that begged his captains to retreat and save themselves. His voice carried the perfect tone of a leader watching his forces being slaughtered by an enemy he could not match, but every word was carefully scripted theater designed to maintain the deception until the perfect moment arrived. Supreme. Admiral Thorian watched the pathetic human resistance from the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. These primitives were fighting exactly as he expected, with bravery but without hope. Their weapons barely scratched his shields, and their tactics showed the desperation of a species facing extinction. Increase the rate of fire, Thorian ordered his weapon officers. I want this finished within the hour. These humans need to learn that resistance to the Zolonian Empire is futile. The alien fleet pressed forward confidently, their formation designed more for intimidation than defense. The command ships remained safely in the rear while heavy battleships led the assault. Thorian had no reason to suspect that anything other than complete victory awaited him. That was when Admiral Kane transmitted the signal that changed everything in the solar system. All black units. This is command. Operation Nightfall is authorized. Repeat, Nightfall is go. Show them what we really are. The space around the Zolonian fleet erupted into violence as 237 ships materialized from the void itself. The Black Armada decloaked simultaneously, their dark hulls seeming to absorb the light of the stars as they surrounded the alien formation from every direction. Captain Jake Morrison fired the first shot of humanity's counterattack. His quantum torpedo phased through the Eternal Dominion's shields, like they were made of paper, and detonated against the massive ship's hull. The explosion sent shockwaves through the alien command structure, as their primitive enemies displayed technology that should not exist. All ships, engage your assigned targets, Morrison announced to his cruiser group. Make every shot count. We've waited 15 years for this moment. The Retribution's weapons blazed with deadly light as more quantum torpedoes streaked toward the alien command ships. These exotic weapons existed in multiple dimensions at once, allowing them to bypass any conventional defense and strike directly at enemy hulls. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster's destroyer squadrons hit the Zolonian flanks like hunting wolves attacking a herd of prey animals. The Shadowhawk and her sister ships emerged from stealth at point-blank range, their energy weapons slicing through alien armor like knives through cloth. Target their engines first, Foster ordered her captains. Dead ships can't run away to warn their empire. The Zolonian formation began to break apart as commanders realized they were facing an enemy completely unlike anything in their military databases. These human ships used weapons and tactics that defied everything the Empire knew about this supposedly primitive species. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the battle unfold from the command center of the Voidwalker, while her most devastating creations prepared to enter the fight. The dark matter bombs were loaded onto stealth fighters that slipped through the chaos of battle, like invisible death approaching its victims. Deploy the void bombs on my mark, she announced to the fighter squadron leaders. Wait for maximum target concentration before activation. The first dark matter weapon activated near a cluster of Zolonian cruisers, creating a gravitational well that crushed 3 ships instantly. Metal hulls collapsed like empty cans as the artificial gravity field compressed matter beyond any structural limit. The alien crews had no time to scream before their vessels were reduced to dense balls of twisted wreckage. Supreme, Admiral Thorian's confident expression turned to horror as he realized that his inevitable victory had become a nightmare of impossible proportions. His sensors showed human ships using technology that surpassed even Zolonian science, weapons that violated the known laws of physics, and tactics that suggested detailed knowledge of alien weaknesses. How is this possible? Thorian demanded of his science officers. Our intelligence report said these humans barely had spaceflight capability. Unknown, Admiral, came the frightened reply. These ships are not using any technology in our databases. They appear to be incorporating principles from multiple alien civilizations. The battle raged across millions of kilometers of space, as the Black Armada demonstrated why it had been built in secret for so many years. Every system had been optimized for fighting enemies with superior numbers and traditional technology. Every weapon had been designed to exploit the weaknesses that all conventional fleets shared. Captain Morrison's cruiser group concentrated their fire on the alien battleships, using quantum torpedoes to punch through shields and armor that should have been impenetrable. The exotic matter warheads detonated inside enemy hulls, causing massive internal explosions that broke the giant ships apart from within. Lieutenant Colonel Foster led her destroyers in hit-and-run attacks that targeted the alien fleet's support vessels. Without their supply ships, repair vessels, and communication relays, the Zolonian formation lost cohesion and began fighting as individual units rather than a coordinated force. The Voidwalker and the other battle carriers launched wave after wave of fighters equipped with weapons that could disable entire ships without destroying them. These capture techniques allowed the humans to take prisoners and gather intelligence while minimizing unnecessary killing. Dr. Vasquez continued to deploy her dark matter bombs with surgical precision, creating gravitational traps that prevented alien ships from escaping or regrouping. Each weapon removed multiple targets from the battle while demonstrating technology that the Zolonians could not comprehend or counter. The tide of battle turned completely as the alien fleet realized they were not facing weak resistance but a carefully planned ambush by forces that outmatched them in every category except raw numbers. Ships that had seemed invincible hours earlier now fled in panic as human weapons tore through their defenses. Supreme Admiral Thorian found himself commanding a fleet that was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had completely underestimated. His mighty empire, which had conquered dozens of worlds through overwhelming force, was being humiliated by a species they had dismissed as primitives. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from multiple ship captains, his communication officer reported with fear in his voice. They're asking permission to withdraw from the battle. Thorian looked at his tactical display and saw the truth that his pride had refused to accept. The Zolonian fleet was losing badly against an enemy that had prepared for this exact scenario. His choice was between retreat and complete annihilation. After 6 hours of devastating combat, the alien fleet had been reduced to less than 30% of its original strength. The survivors limped through space with damaged hulls and failing systems, no longer the proud armada that had demanded Earth's surrender. Supreme Admiral Thorian transmitted his final message to Admiral Kane with the bitter taste of defeat in every word. Human Commander, the Zolonian fleet requests terms for withdrawal. We acknowledge that we have gravely underestimated your species and your capabilities. Admiral Lucas Kane stood on the bridge of Neptune's Gate Station and looked out at the wreckage of what had once been the mighty Zolonian fleet. Broken ships drifted through space like the shattered dreams of an empire that had believed itself invincible. The aliens who had demanded Earth's surrender were now begging for mercy, but Kane was not finished with them yet. Supreme Admiral Thorian, Kane transmitted to the crippled Zolonian flagship, your request for withdrawal is denied. However, I am prepared to offer you something better than destruction. The alien commander appeared on the communication screen, his reptilian features showing confusion and fear. The proud leader who had threatened to sterilize Earth now looked like a broken creature facing forces beyond his understanding. What do you want from us, human? Thorian asked, his voice hollow with defeat. Kane smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. I want you to deliver a message to your empire and to every other power in the galaxy. Earth is under the protection of humanity's forces. Any future aggression against our worlds or our people will be met with complete destruction. Captain Jake Morrison's cruiser group formed an escort around the surviving Zilonian ships as they began their journey toward the edge of the solar system. The Retribution and her sister vessels kept their weapons trained on the aliens, ready to finish the job if any of them tried to cause trouble. "You have two choices," Morrison transmitted to the alien captains. "Return to your empire with news of what happened here, or be destroyed as pirates and raiders. The decision is yours." The Black Armada ships that surrounded the fleeing Zilonians were a terrifying sight. Their dark hulls seemed to swallow light itself, and their weapons remained charged and ready. These vessels had just demonstrated capabilities that surpassed anything in known space, and their crews showed no mercy toward enemies of Earth. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster's destroyer squadron took point position as the convoy headed toward interstellar space. The Shadowhawk and her sister ships could disappear from sensors at any moment, making them perfect guardians for ensuring the aliens actually left the solar system. "Remember this moment," Foster transmitted to the Zilonian survivors. "Remember how easily we could have killed you all. Remember that we chose to show mercy when your empire would have shown none. Tell your leaders that humanity is not what they believed us to be." Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the departure from the command center of the Voidwalker, her mind already turning to new projects and possibilities. The black sites would continue to operate, but now they would focus on exploration and peaceful contact rather than weapons of war. Humanity had proven it could defend itself, and now it was time to take its place among the stars. "We'll need to establish diplomatic protocols for contact with other species," she told her science teams. "The galaxy is going to be very interested in talking to us after word of this battle spreads." The message that reached the Zilonian capital weeks later sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The humans, previously dismissed as a minor species confined to a single system, had revealed military capabilities that rivaled the greatest powers in known space. More importantly, they had shown mercy to a defeated enemy, something the Zilonian Empire rarely did. President Helen Martinez addressed the world in a speech that finally revealed the truth about Project Blackout and the sacrifices made by thousands of volunteers. The heroes of the Black Armada were celebrated across Earth, but they remained vigilant for whatever new threats might emerge from the depths of space. "Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe," Martinez told the crowds gathered in every major city. "We also learned that when humanity is threatened, we do not bow down or surrender. We fight back with everything we have and we win." General Ryan Cooper established new protocols for galactic defense based on lessons learned from the Zilonian encounter. Earth would never again be caught unprepared for alien contact, whether hostile or peaceful. The planet's defenses were restructured around the assumption that more advanced enemies might come calling. The Black Armada proved that superior technology and careful planning can overcome seemingly impossible odds. Cooper explained to the military leaders who were finally learning the full truth. "We'll use these principles to ensure that Earth remains free no matter what the galaxy throws at us." Admiral Kane received reports from Black Fleet commanders as they dispersed throughout the solar system. Some ships returned to hidden bases for maintenance and upgrades, while others began humanity's first true expansion into deep space. They carried the message that Earth would never bow to outside threats. Captain Morrison took the Retribution and a small task force toward the Alpha Centauri system, where long-range sensors had detected signs of possible alien activity. His mission was to establish humanity's presence in interstellar space and make contact with any species that might be willing to trade or form alliances. Lieutenant Colonel Foster led a squadron of stealth ships on patrol routes throughout the outer solar system. The Shadowhawk and her sister vessels would serve as early warning systems against future invasion attempts while also gathering intelligence on other spacefaring civilizations. Dr. Vasquez began work on new technologies that could be used for peaceful purposes. The same principles that created the void bombs could be applied to terraforming dead worlds or mining asteroids. The knowledge gained from studying alien technology would help humanity become a major power in galactic affairs. The Zilonian Empire, meanwhile, faced internal upheaval as news of their defeat spread throughout their territory. Subject worlds that had been conquered by Zilonian force began to question whether their masters were truly invincible. Some even began to rebel, inspired by the example of humanity's successful resistance. Supreme Admiral Thorian found himself stripped of rank and facing trial for the greatest military disaster in Zolonian history. His failure to properly assess human capabilities had cost the Empire an entire fleet and damaged their reputation throughout the galaxy. But the most important change was in how other alien civilizations viewed humanity. The species that had been ignored as primitive newcomers was suddenly recognized as a major player in galactic politics. Diplomatic missions began arriving at Earth within months of the battle, carrying offers of trade, alliance, and mutual defense. Admiral Kane stood once again at the observation window of Neptune's gate station, but now he looked out at a very different solar system. Human ships patrolled freely throughout local space, their dark hulls no longer hidden, but serving as visible reminders of Earth's strength. The Black Armada had emerged from the void to save humanity from conquest, and in doing so had announced to the galaxy that Earth was ready to take its place among the stars. The age of human isolation was over, and the age of human expansion was just beginning. The void had given up its secrets, and from that darkness, humanity had emerged stronger than anyone could have imagined. Other species might challenge Earth in the future, but they would do so knowing that humans were not the weak prey they appeared to be. Admiral Kane smiled as he watched the distant stars, knowing that somewhere among them, human ships were already exploring new worlds and making contact with alien civilizations. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was no longer a place where humanity had to fear the darkness. The Black Armada would continue its eternal patrol, guardians of human freedom and guarantors of Earth's place in the cosmic community. Whatever came from the void in the future would find humanity ready and waiting.